Hello, welcome everyone. There's a giant white bar across the screen. Welcome to an adventure. Of course, it is as silly as always. But welcome back. This has been an interesting month. We lost 2 weeks due to very loud construction noise that was happening, and it just made it untenable to try and stream here the last 2 weeks. But we're back today, and of course, as soon as I attempted to initiate the stream, the sound controllers on the computer quit working. The music stopped playing. The microphone would not turn on. I had to restart the computer. So it's fine. Oh gosh. Hello and welcome. Oh, Katrina. It is good to see you. Thank you for popping in. What were you up to today? And hi. I should actually get the introductions out of the way and get started because I'm so behind. Hi, welcome to an adventure. This is Archival Adventures. I am Rogan27, aka Anthony Wright Day Hernandez. I'm the Community Collections Archivist at Virginia Tech, and this is a stream that I do roughly once a week to just explore the archives. We look at things that have been selected, oftentimes things I've not seen before, and we just learn together. So it's a fun experience, kind of similar to an unboxing or like a reaction vid, but yeah. And oh, I forgot to say, if anybody here wasn't already following Katrina, drop a follow. The shout out should be there. Okay, and I saw, let's see, for some reason it doesn't show me the streaks. Shadows of Life, thank you very much for the 40 stream streak. That is an accomplishment. Hannah, hello, it's good to see you. Key Squared, hi Stephen Joys, and of course Katrina and Raiders, welcome in. So without any further ado, let's talk about what we're going to look at today, because as I said, I got started late. I had to restart the computer due to technical difficulties. Today we are looking at the invention of the walkie-talkie. And we will be exploring that topic via the Al Gross papers. I have not previously delved into these before, so this is one of those ones where it's like, I'm not sure what we'll find. I only have a portion of the papers in the room with me because it is a large collection. You can see here, 10 cubic feet, 21 boxes total. Sorry, 10 cubic feet, 21 boxes. I have so many screens and I forget where my cursor is. But first, before we actually look at the documents, who the heck is Al Gross? It's good to know whose papers we're going to explore. Al Gross was born in Toronto, Ontario, but was raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Known as the father of wireless communications, Gross invented the walkie-talkie. We'll get to why I put air quotes around it. Invented the walkie-talkie in 1938 at the age of 20, and by 1941, the Office of Strategic Services, now known as the CIA, was eager to develop a lightweight portable communication system for air-to-ground contact. The OSS recruited Gross, and he devised the Joan-Eleanor System using Hertzian radio waves, which were virtually impossible to intercept even from behind enemy lines. Gross's invention was a huge success and was praised by the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff as being one of the most successful wireless intelligence gathering methods ever employed. After the war, Gross formed the Citizens Radio Corporation and sold his units to the public, mostly to farmers and the United States Coast Guard. In 1949, Gross had another breakthrough invention, the telephone pager. That same year, Gross attended a medical conference in Philadelphia to introduce the pager system to doctors. Unfortunately, many of the doctors were apprehensive of the device, stating it would interfere with their leisure time or upset their patients. The pager never caught on for Gross, proving he was decades ahead of his time. Gross continued to invent for his entire lifespan, compiling 12 patents, but Gross's patents expired long before the world was ready for pagers, cell phones, and CB radio. Instead of reaping the monetary benefits of his inventions, Gross is rich in awards and recognition. Most recently, Gross became the 6th person to be awarded the Lemelson MIT Lifetime Achievement Award in 2000. 8 months later, on December 28, 2000, Gross died in his Arizona home. So, the papers themselves, there are a lot of them. They're divided into various series. So we've got the employment series, which has stuff from Citizens Radio Corporation, Gross Communications, and Royal Call, the first telephone pager company ever. Publications, a list of articles and such. The government series includes materials from the Office of Strategic Services, 5 folders from the FCC, let's see, there's a vast collection of recognitions, 18 different awards, blah, blah, etc., etc. Oversized materials, awards, blueprints, original documents, etc. And there's a lot of stuff on here. If you want to take a look through the finding aid and you see something that seems interesting, if it's in box 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 14, 15, or oversized box 1, I have it in the room and you can ask to see it. Otherwise, if you really want to see it, I could potentially go and get it when we have to take a break because of the advertisement attack that will happen midstream. However, we're going to continue a little bit of primer information before we start diving into the documents by visiting a couple of articles on Wikipedia. First, Walkie-Talkie, because it's good to know a little bit of the background before we go diving in. More formally known as a handheld transceiver, or handheld radio, is a handheld portable two-way radio transceiver. Its development during the Second World War has been variously credited to Donald Hings, radio engineer Alfred J. Gross, Henryk Magnuski, and engineering teams at Motorola. So it is somewhat disputed who the actual inventor is, although at least Hings and Gross both invented it. Technically, I do believe Hings invented it first. But Gross did not know Hings' work when he was so they both invented it, just anyway. The timing of credit in scientific inventions is a very political thing. Anyway, first used for infantry, similar designs were credited for field artillery, etc. Walkie-talkies resemble a telephone handset with a speaker built into one end and a microphone in the other, and an antenna mounted on the top. Walkie-talkie is a half-duplex communication device. Multiple use a single radio channel, and only one radio on the channel can transmit at a time, although any number can listen. The transceiver is normally in receive mode. When the user wants to talk, they must press a push to talk button, which most people alive today are familiar with push to talk due to its popularity in online communications. All right. The Canadian inventor Donald Hings was the first to create a portable radio signaling system for his employer CM&S in 1937. Hi, Sterling! It's good to see you. I hope that you finished your last book that you needed to go through and that you're preparing for a lovely fall break. Hing's system was called PACSET, although it later became known as a walkie-talkie. Al Gross, whose papers we have, was one of the developers of the Joan-Eleanor System, which we will look at, and also worked on early technology behind the walkie-talkie between 1938 and 1941, and is sometimes credited with inventing it. There's, of course, as I mentioned, dispute. Oh, thanks for the follow, Dwarven Fury. The first device to be widely nicknamed a walkie-talkie was developed in the US military during World War II. The backpacked Motorola SCR 300. Anyway, so we know there's a little bit of iffiness about who was first, but they were active at the same time and did lots of invention-y things. I'm going to skip to the last article so that we can get to documents faster, but if you want to peruse more about the history of the walkie-talkie from Wikipedia, it is there. Lastly, there is a Wikipedia article about Al Gross, which it's very confusing, and I haven't figured it out yet, because Irving Al Gross is the same person as Albert J. Gross. I don't know the discrepancy. I don't know why the discrepancy in the name. All I know is this is the article about him. Anyway, created and patented many communications devices specifically in relation to an early version of the walkie-talkie, citizens band radio, the telephone pager, and the cordless telephone. It doesn't look too gross. This is true. Born in Toronto, Ontario, Canada in 1918, the son of Romanian Jewish immigrants, he grew up in Cleveland in the United States. His lifelong enthusiasm for radio was sparked at age 9 when traveling on Lake Erie by a steamboat. He ended up in the radio transmissions room, and the ship's operator let him listen in on transmissions. He turned the basement of his house into a radio station built from scavenged junkyard parts. At 16, he earned his amateur radio license, which I think I have. He used the call sign W8PAL his entire life. 1936, he entered the BSEE program, Bachelor of Science in Engineering. Actually, I think BSEE is in Electrical Engineering, at Cleveland's Case of Applied Sciences, now part of Case Western. He was determined to investigate the unexplored frequency region above 100 megahertz. I love his article says, between 1938 and 1941, soon after the invention of the walkie-talkie in 1937 by Donald Hings, he created and patented his own version of it. So whoever wrote his article acknowledges that he was second, which is fine. Oh, congratulations, though, Katrina. You've been randomly selected as a VIP for the stream. Enjoy the digital gemstone, and you get to control pun points. Hi, Matt M33. All right. Gross helped build a VHF air-to-ground communication system for the Office of Strategic Services. That system was the Joan-Eleanor System, which, as I said, we've got some stuff on and we'll look at. It was a handheld SSTC 502 transceiver, Joan, and a much larger aircraft-based SSTR6 transceiver, Eleanor. Gross's actual contribution to the project is unclear. He was not an OSS member, but the main developers on the project were DeWitt R. Goddard and Lieutenant Commander Stephen H. Simpson. Goddard's wife's name was Eleanor, and reportedly Joan was an acquaintance of Simpson. That's interesting to see that in there. I do have some paperwork regarding a patent case. Gross v. Goddard, which we can look at if we want to. Anyway, there's more on that. Citizens Band Radio. Gross was instrumental in creating the idea of Citizens Band Radio, and marketed communication systems to the public so that they could use it. Cartoonist Chester Gould asked if he could use Gross's concept of a miniature two-way radio in his Dick Tracy comic strip. The result was the Dick Tracy two-way wrist radio. Another breakthrough in 1949, he adapted his two-way radios to one-way for cordless remote telephonic signaling. He effectively invented the first telephone pager system. He intended it to be used by doctors, but they were skeptical and declined to use it. And we all know that by the 90s, possibly the 80s, doctors everywhere were using pagers. In 1950, he tried in vain to interest telephone companies in mobile telephony. Bell Telephone, Ma Bell, was uninterested, and other companies were afraid of Bell's monopoly on transmission lines. So in 1950, he tried to get telephone companies to introduce cell phones, and they weren't interested. He continued and worked in microwave and other comm systems until he died at 82. Just the fact that he invented pagers in the 30s, or in the 40s, sorry. Yeah, he invented pagers in 1949 and tried to get them in use by doctors, and it was no. He invented the cell phone in 1950 and tried to get people interested in it, and the answer was no. But then in the 90s, pagers were everywhere, and by the 2000s, cell phones were everywhere. Long enough for him to have had his patents expire. A telephone in your pocket? It'll never catch on. I've actually seen, I don't think it was this collection, I have seen a picture of a mobile, I remember where it was. It's in a collection of stuff about electric cars from the 1910s and 20s. There was a picture of a car phone from the 1920s. A car telephone in the 1920s. So anyway, you can explore this Wikipedia article further if you wish, but I'm going to continue on so that we can look at some documents. And first, let's see, how do I want to do this? First, I'm gonna go to studio mode and see if it's in focus and everything is visible correctly. So that we can then switch to document view. And just because I felt like it was fun, Dick Tracy. I have 5 original Dick Tracys from our collection. Dick Tracy, Special FBI Operative, Dick Tracy, the Super Detective, Dick Tracy and the Man with No Face, Dick Tracy and the Hotel Murders, and Dick Tracy on the High Seas. These are... So Dick Tracy was a comic strip in newspapers, and these are translation of that into book form. I don't know. I haven't actually seen like the original in the newspapers, because you've got text here, image here on every page of this. It's text on the left, image on the right, text on the left, image on the right. It's based on the famous newspaper strip. These are let's see, I'll put it here and zoom in. Instead of lifting it up, I'll zoom. How about that? Yeah, I love these little books. I was very happy when I pulled them from storage and saw them. These are the Better Little Book. And they're these chunky little, mostly square things. And they were published for kids. You can see here some others. Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, The Lone Ranger, etc. I would show you the two-way wristwatch in Dick Tracy, except all 5 of these are too old. All 5 of these were stories from before Dick Tracy had his iconic two-way wrist radio. It is really hard to say two-way wrist radio. But in an article, in the wiki article on Dick Tracy, you can see this is the iconic two-way wrist radio, which was inspired by Al Gross's work. But I don't have, or have not been able to locate an actual copy of Dick Tracy in our collections that is new enough to have the radio in it. Ooh, there's a compilation book of all the Dick Tracy strips. That is awesome. I was flipping through these and I was like, I've never actually read Dick Tracy. I mostly know Dick Tracy from the movie that had Madonna in it. I think it'd be interesting to actually read some Dick Tracy at some point. Anyway, I just thought that would be a fun thing to look at to start. So, let's go to 1946, maybe? Or... hang on one second. We'll go to the 1930s. Since that's the older stuffs. Okay. I think these are all related folders. That's why I'm prepping them all. I don't know for sure though, because I haven't actually looked inside them. I just looked at titles to try and make it faster for selection. This folder is photos of Al Gross's inventions. And in it, the very first thing is this envelope inside that is World War II Joan-Eleanor Walkie-Talkie. That seemed to be a place to start. I knew this was there because I used this picture for the cover photo for this stream. So here we have a battery-operated walkie-talkie, a 300 megahertz walkie-talkie from 1938. It is significantly bigger than most walkie-talkies that I have ever seen in person. Which this is more the standard like walkie-talkie that I would be familiar with, although this is also kind of big. Hi, Neogets. I don't know exactly when this one is from. This is, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it so you can see what it says. Handie-Talkie FM radio by Motorola. It is the Motorola HT220, the Handie-Talkie FM radio. So I don't know when that walkie-talkie's from, but this picture is an original design 1938 walkie-talkie. Just want to see if there's, no, it's just a lot of the same picture but without a caption. It's funny. Here we have Al himself in his later years, shown with a number of his inventions. A younger. This is 1965. He's holding this in this photo. So apparently it had an earpiece as well. Actually, no, he's holding this, which is smaller and sleeker than the battery-operated one. We have this, but it's in an exhibit, a permanent exhibit, on the Torgerson Bridge. So that bridge that is in this photo behind me, there's a permanent exhibit of Al Gross stuff on display there, and this item is one of the actual like physical walkie-talkie is one of the things on display. The comparison, 1936 to 1990. HT220 was introduced in 1969. Thank you, Stephen. So, handheld walkie-talkie, 1936. Cell phone, 1990. What's funny is all of those things were in this envelope labeled Joan-Eleanor Walkie-Talkie. None of them are the Joan-Eleanor. I don't know. We will continue exploring. Amazing how much World War II Handie-Talkies look like the early white one. Almost the same design, just in olive green. Okay, this is a great photo, and for a particular reason. So this is Al showing some of his inventions, and I'll make sure it gets in focus once I zoom in a bit. I don't know specifically how many of these items we physically have. Like, I know we have that one. I know there's some other stuff on display upstairs, but I don't know specifically which. As far as I know, we do not have a physical one of these. This is his original wrist walkie-talkie. His original wrist two-way radio. That he's wearing in this photo, which is why it's pretty cool. So this is the device that really inspired the Dick Tracy comic. Hi, Kinslayer. Yeah, if you've got questions about what we're looking at or any of that, feel free to ask. If I know the answer, I'll be happy to answer. All right, let me see what else we have in these photos. Just more photos of Al with his inventions so far. I don't know what it is specifically. But I think this photo is to show that it's small because it's only an inch, but I don't know specifically what component it is because it doesn't have a caption. Okay, so this is going to be part of the Joan-Eleanor. It's OSS SSTC 502, 250 to 260 megahertz transceiver. It seems really small, especially for the time. You love old pre-microchip tech? Yeah. Like, this has a glass tube in it. Yeah, that's more of the Joan-Eleanor. I am fairly certain this is on display because it wasn't in the box. Kinslayer, I have absolutely no idea. That is not on topic. We're looking at the invention of the walkie-talkie today. But I don't know. You could presume whatever you wish to presume. So, more components, more glass tubes. You know what our portable tech needs? Fragile glass tubes. Exactly. Printed circuit component for Citizens Band transceiver CR401. Model 100B. Except I don't think that's what that photo is. That's the caption, but I think there's a second photo. Hang on. Oh, no, it's the same. It's just we have multiple copies in this sleeve. Oh, this is one of the early, when he created the Citizens Band and started marketing things to the public. It mentioned that he also marketed to the United States Coast Guard. And so here we have a U.S. Coast Guard radio transmitter receiver, model TRC 156. Output of 0.25 watts, emission A3, frequency range 415.8 MC. I don't know what the MC stands for. I'm not that familiar with radio frequency tech. Date, September 1st, 1949. Manufactured by Stuart Warner Electric, Chicago, Illinois. That's cool. These are not radio. They're not walkie-talkies. These are electronic proximity fuses, which he also invented. But they're not the focus of today, so I'm moving on. SOE Type A Mark II. To me, it's a bunch of wires and knobs. I don't know enough to really understand that. Nuclear power plant controller he designed. This is just a folder of photos, so it's got other stuff. Ooh, here's one. So this has there are proximity fuses on the left. There's a royal call in the middle, which, do I remember what that was? The answer is no, but I remember seeing it mentioned somewhere. Oh, royal call. That this is the first ever telephone pager. So we have proximity fuses, the pager from 1949, and the two-way wristwatch, the radio wristwatch. And here's a comparison photo of some of the technology as it developed over time. So these are Al Gross designs, with a little bit of like, I don't know that he designed the like more modern versions. So I think they're present more for comparison. Although he might have, I just don't know. 1936/1938, 300 megahertz walkie-talkie. World War II OSS model, 250 megahertz. And you see it's got rabbit ears. It's got an antenna, a big antenna. Whereas this one is a more standard, like, cell phone sized antenna when cell phones had antennas. Well, they do now, but now they're wrapped around the outside. Anyway, this is a much bigger antenna. MC, oh, the old unit used before megahertz, megacycles. Interesting. Here we have the 1947-1948 first personal radio, 465 megahertz. So this is the first consumer handheld radio. So this is the actual first consumer walkie-talkie. 1950 model, 465 megahertz. This is basically the same model as that US Coast Guard one that we looked at a minute ago. 1975 model, 465 megahertz, made by Motorola. That is this. That's the same as the actual, like, physical one I have here. And it literally, it has knobs on the top. So we've got off, volume, F1, F2, squelch, and then the spot to screw in the antenna. So frequency 1, frequency 2, squelch. You can turn it off, you've got volume, and you've got your push to talk button on the side. It does have contacts on the bottom, and I'm not certain what they're for. We've got open and close for a battery compartment here. This is mid-70s tech. And I don't know when... I don't know if it has rechargeable batteries, and that's what the contacts are for or not. Hi, Bast Insider. Squelch. Well, we're looking at walkie-talkies. So squelch is instead of talking into it, you can squelch, which sends a burst of just noise. So yeah. And then of course we go from walkie-talkies and advance to 1990 with the cellular telephone, which in this case, again, is Motorola. And I literally have a Motorola telephone. An old Motorola flip phone. Who thought, what was a good idea? The squelch? Essentially, the squelch was there so that if you couldn't talk because you were in because they were originally developed for like military use. So if you were in a position where you could not speak, but you needed to communicate, you could squelch in Morse code to get a message out. Oh, I don't know who decided that it was called squelching. But yeah, we have a Motorola phone, which what I find really interesting about this phone is that the microphone is not this hole. You can see this hole is completely see-through. I don't actually know specifically where the microphone is on this. I would have to explore a little to figure it out. But like the flip part of the flip phone was really just a cover for the keys. It has no function at all, other than possibly like reflecting sound so that it is captured by the microphone more efficiently. But generally, the flip part of the flip phone was just a cover, and it was to make it look more like a phone. And then they came out with bar phones, which was basically this, just without the little flippy part. But yeah, this is a, let's see, micro TAC. I don't know if this is an actual functional model or if this was a like a demo mock-up that is just in looking at it. I'm guessing this was not a functional phone. This is just a mock-up, which is why it's got like the sticker with the digits, because it doesn't look to me like it opens at all. Like the back here, this is the battery, and would pop off, but this does not appear to open. So I think this is just a demo model. Then of course the first pager from 1949, which sadly I do not have. My guess is it's probably in the exhibit upstairs, which I had originally planned to go and steal things from the exhibit for the stream, but that was when the stream was happening 2 weeks ago, and I forgot that was part of the plan. And then of course 1980, current model pager. This is an even more modern pager that happens to be in the collection. Because yes, he invented the pager in 1949, and nobody wanted to use it. They thought it was a bad idea. Remember back when you used to be able to replace the battery in your phone? Those were the days. Yeah. And of course, this side, it actually lists some of his patents that are reflected in these inventions. Some of his patents. He had like 12. Patent for high-frequency transmitter and receiver. Patent for radio tuning apparatus. Patent for radio frequency oscillator. And a patent for the antenna. We saw that one. This one, just another look at some of those without the modern ones. These are some sort of part that goes inside of it, being compared to the size of a paperclip. We do not store batteries, no. We've got climate control in the space. We don't store a lot of electronics, because we're mostly a documents place, but this included some things. I don't have a screwdriver to open this. There could be a battery in here and I wouldn't know it. So it could be corroding, but it does appear to be a small battery. Usually things like that we would remove and just recycle. I know when I was going through the Marjorie Rhodes Townsend papers and discovered in the model kits that were in there, it still had it still had the like chemical paint thinner that like little bottles of this tester's stuff for use in like painting models. And so what we did once we found it, because those chemicals are not something we want to keep in the collection, we took photos of it so that people would know what had been there, and the photo is stored with the model kit. But the items themselves, we contacted the campus hazardous waste disposal people, and they came and got rid of the stuff. So that's what happens with that. Now, if we had like old celluloid film, that stuff we don't have the capacity to store here because it is highly flammable and has to be in refrigerated conditions, and we don't have that. So if we ever had a collection that included that, what we have done in the past with that sort of material is to work out an agreement with the Smithsonian or the National Archives, and that material gets stored there. Yes. This folder is called CIA Documents, and it is indeed documents from the Central Intelligence Agency. Because I was starting with the Joan-Eleanor, and the Joan-Eleanor was developed for OSS, which became CIA. So the cover page here, this is an acknowledgement of your letter of 25 January requesting any information in the OSS files on the Joan-Eleanor Communications Project. I shall arrange for a search of these files and shall be in further communication with you once the search has been completed and any records found reviewed for relevance and releasability. I don't think I've ever seen that word before, but makes sense. I should warn you, however, that many of the original OSS files were destroyed over the years, and chances of finding complete information on any specific project after more than 35 years is chancy. For your information, I am enclosing a copy of our fee schedule. Fees for these searches are waived only in cases of great public interest. I feel that the few items we might find as a result of this search would not fall into that category. Are you sure they're not undercover documents? Maybe they're only pretending to be CIA. We're not going to go through the fee schedule. So this letter ends with the few items we might find. 24 May 1979. Dear Mr. Gross, we have completed searching our files in response to your Freedom of Information request for information on the OSS Joan-Eleanor project and have found a large number of pertinent documents. I am enclosing copies of 215 of them for your retention. So the previous letter acknowledging the request said, I feel that the few items we might find at the end, and they're like, we found a large number of pertinent documents. We're sending you 215 documents. The first 214 are sent in their entirety. All are OSS documents. The first 13 are undated. The remaining 201 are in chronological order from 25 September 1942 to 24 August 1945. I'm going to take us to the Be Right Back screen real quick, and we will return to this after the stream is attacked by the automated advertisement break. So I shall see you in approximately 3 minutes. Hi, welcome back, everybody. I don't... That's my fault. Thank you for letting me know I was muted. The advertisement attack should be over. I was looking for a photo of the Joan-Eleanor system because that's what all this CIA OSS stuff is about. And so this is the handheld portion of the Joan-Eleanor. I don't know that I have any photos of the like airplane mounted portion, but so they found 207 they found 215 items. Let's see. In item 215, a report of 24 July 1945, you will note that certain portions have been deleted. These deletions were made in accordance with exemptions B1 and B3 of the Freedom of Information Act, an explanation of which is also included with this letter. There was also one item, number 216, a memorandum of 27 December 1944, which could not be released, even with deletions. This item is also denied, was also denied under the same exemptions. Anywho, we're not going to look at lots of this stuff, but during the ad break, I glanced ahead, and this one seemed like it might be interesting. So, 17 July 1945. Memorandum for General Arnold. I think you may be interested in a few notes on a special ground-air system of intelligence reporting, which represents another example of the cooperation between the AAF and OSS. AAF, would that be the Allied Air Force? Oh, Army Air Forces. Because the Air Force didn't exist as the Air Force yet. It was the Army Air Forces. This system, developed by OSS, is known as JE, Joan and Eleanor. When put into operation with the assistance of the 8th Air Force during the closing months of the war against Germany, it proved a valuable new tool for penetration of any desired depth into enemy territory. Because of its portability and superior security features, JE has important advantages over wireless telegraphy in certain specific situations. The equipment carried by the ground agent affords maximum possibilities of concealment, as the two pocket-sized units and collapsible antenna weigh less than 4 pounds, and there is no dependence on outside power supply. The danger of detection through enemy monitoring is minimized by the high frequency used and the selective beam pattern cast upward, which make it improbable that the enemy will hear the signals. Hence, except for messages involving top security, the necessity of coding is eliminated. Direct two-way voice communication permits spot advice to the agent on priority intelligence desired and makes it possible in some instances to receive requested information at once. Both sides of the ground-air conversation are recorded in the plane for purposes of accuracy and as a check on the identity of the ground operator. A contact via JE lasting 15 or 20 minutes can supply a greater volume of intelligence than several days of WT transmission under normal circumstances. It is also possible for a plane in the course of a single mission to make more than one such contact, if the agents are so located as to make this practical. Anyway, I'm going to skip ahead a little. The first successful operation with the Joan-Eleanor was accomplished in November 1944 with an agent placed in Holland. Between 21 January and 24 April 1945, 12 JE teams were introduced directly into Germany, where they were placed in key cities. JE security features enabled 2 of those teams to work in Berlin without being detected. 29 JE missions were flown between 19 March and 25 April. The accumulation of operational experiences resulted in exceptionally good contacts toward the end of this period, although some failures occurred at the start. Thus, except for attempts which failed to reach the target area, every mission but one of those flown during the last week of these operations produced useful results. As an example of the effective use of JE is set forth in Appendix A, which I want to look at. Because why not? It's interesting. Appendix A. I'm going to zoom in a little because I can't see it without looking down at the page, so you probably can't either. The value of the JE system was dramatically shown when an OSS operator in a plane 30,000 feet in the air received the following via JE from an agent speaking from near Munich. Unessentials deleted from transcript. Hello, Vic. This is Freddy calling. The Weilheim Railway Junction has from 40 to 50 trains passing through all night. In Weilheim proper, there are 2 airplane factories. Number 1 is the Dornier Works, and the second is a factory making spare parts for planes. Peisenberg is nearby. It is the last coal mine out of which the Germans are now obtaining coal within the Reich to send to Berchtesgaden. The spare airplane parts and the completed parts from the Dornier plant are shipped by rail to Garmsich in the mountains. You must absolutely knock out the railway line Weilheim-Peisenberg, Weilheim-Augsburg as soon as possible. This line must be knocked out. I have something else to say to you. You must not bomb Reisting under any circumstances. The people are 90% on our side, and so is the entire Volkssturm. Reisting. Do not bomb it, please. This intelligence was immediately forwarded to the Air Force, which decided to bomb the Weilheim target and the nearby passing railway station in Munich on the same mission. At the time this raid took place, a rather heavy overcast prevented an immediate estimate of damage from the air. Another JE mission was flown to the same agent the night after the bombing. He reported, I want to thank you for almost killing me yesterday. I was in Munich and I was 800 meters from the Peisig station when it was attacked. Now an eyewitness report. Passing station was hit directly during the bombing attack yesterday about 1100. Railroad traffic in the direction of the mountains and Garmsich was halted and is paralyzed. All tracks are destroyed. In the double bombing attack at Weilheim, the station and tracks were hit. Only the aircraft plant Fahrdorf, which we were talking about, was nearly undamaged. After conversing with the agent, the JE plane dropped to low altitude and photographed the Weilheim damage. The photographs and the agent's report were delivered to the AAF immediately. The town of Reisting was not bombed. The sass. I think that was... I'd be curious to read more of this, but there's so much stuff in so little time. But I really enjoyed that the transcription of the communication. But I do want to get to some other things before the end of stream, and I have to end on time today because this collection is needed for an event happening a half hour after the scheduled end time of the stream. So I have to get these folders back in their boxes and get the boxes over to the other side of the department really, really quickly. Blueprints. This one. We shall start. Oh, I also have a bar phone in the collection, just because we looked at the flip phone before. There's a bar phone as well. And there's also this. I have no idea. Well, okay, that's not true. I have an idea. I just don't know what this is. It's got a round bit. It's got a speaker. It's got a knob. It's got a button. That appears to be all. I do not know what this is. It doesn't seem to have an antenna. It doesn't seem like I'm not certain what this is. I thought I would show it in case anybody can identify it. Because I don't know what this is. I'm gonna look at the finding machines, or finding aid, see if... Oh! Ah, okay, I know what it is. It's a microphone that doubles as a wax stick. Heike Squared got called away and just back to see a mystery object. This is not actually walkie-talkie related. This is a metal detector. I did not know. Intercom with extra space to add cute stickers. Nope, it's a metal detector. It looks nothing like what I think of when I think of a metal detector. Who knew? I didn't. Okay. It was the first thing you thought was metal detector? Best Insider, you deserve points for that. You didn't say anything because you thought it was silly. We're gonna jump to 1977 and take a look at this article in The Times, a monthly publication for all True Temper employees. All True Temper employees. Yeah, because I didn't know what it was. I had to go to the finding aid, and thankfully it says metal detector, comma, blue. Otherwise, I would not have figured it out. CB Daddy stumps trail of invention. One of the three men at right is the amazing Al Gross. Al has been an author, photographer, military consultant, salesman, successful entrepreneur, even a grocer's helper. But it has been the invention of various electronic gadgets in general, and the CB radio in particular, that has catapulted this True Temper employee to fame, some fortune, and a recent appearance on the game show To Tell the Truth. Will the real Al Gross please stand up? Gross tells the truth about his amazing life. Contestant number 1. What is your name, and what do you do, please? My name is Al Gross, and I'm credited as being the father of the Citizens Band radio. Contestant number 2. My name is Al Gross, and I inspired Dick Tracy's creator, Chester Gould, to equip his detective with a wrist radio similar to the one I developed. Contestant number 3. My name is Al Gross, and I designed the first battery-powered calculator. Will the real Al Gross please stand up? Well, to tell you the truth, they're all Al Gross, each and every one. But don't think for a moment that that's all there is to the Al Gross story. To the contrary, the 58-year-old Cleveland resident, now sales and marketing manager for the company's fiberglass option, developed the proximity fuse during World War II, the first pocket paging device, and wow. I don't know why I'm stumbling on that word. Miniaturized missile and satellite components. What's more, he has been a portrait and forensic police photographer, an author, an Air Force military consultant, and a friend to such celebrities as Arthur Godfrey, General Curtis LeMay, Barry Goldwater, and Andy Devine. However significant those exploits might be, they've all been dwarfed by the spectacular boom and interest in the CB radio. An invention which has catapulted Al to fame, some fortune, and a recent appearance on the television game show To Tell the Truth. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I just thought it was kind of fun, and there was an article in, this is an internal newsletter from the company True Temper. And here I have photos from his appearance on To Tell the Truth. Because why not? I actually think, I didn't check. We might have a video cassette tape with a copy of the episode. There are some videotapes in the collection, but I didn't have time to watch them. I just, like, he was on the game show. If you're unfamiliar with To Tell the Truth, the way the game show worked was they would get someone notable, but not necessarily famous. And that person and two other people pretending to be that person would be presented to the contestants. They would talk about what they had done, why they were there, what was notable about them, and the contestants would ask questions to try and figure out which one was the real person and which ones were imposters. And so here is the three people who appeared on the show as Al Gross. And of course, the actual Al Gross is in the middle. There's the host of To Tell the Truth holding a CB radio, because that was why he was on the show, was he was the inventor of the CB radio. I don't think I've seen this episode of To Tell the Truth. The one that I always remember is the one with the guy that pretended to be a doctor and an airline pilot, and the one who the movie Catch Me If You Can was about. Now the photos don't want to go back in the envelope. Which is okay, I guess, but not wonderful. Okay. Anyway, to tell the truth, I thought it was a fun little thing. It was his brief moment of fame for having invented all of these amazing things. Let's see. Box 3, folder 7, which is the Ultraphone. Does anyone know anything about the Ultraphone? Let's see, model UHP2. The Ultraphone model UHP2 incorporates a newly designed 6AK5 detector circuit, which assures extreme sensitivity. The 6AK5 detector circuit incorporates a unique feature which provides expanded band spread, allowing greater selectivity per dial coverage. The detector circuit will operate up to 250 megacycles by using smaller inductances. The transmitter incorporates the new Taylor TUF20 tube, which is capable of handling 75 watts input. However, the Ultraphone itself will handle 30 watts continuously. The design of the TUF20 and its components make it possible to operate up to 250 megacycles by changing inductances. You've seen the term in 50 sci-fi, but probably unrelated. Yeah, I don't know. The audio and speech amplifier consists of 7B4 high-grain triode resistance. I feel like I'm reading technobabble. The audio and speech amplifier consists of 7B4 high-grain triode resistance coupled into a 7C5 output and modulator tube. The design of the audio system was so arranged that when changing from receive to transmit, no additional increase in audio gain is necessary to modulate the transmitter if a good-grade carbon microphone is used. Current for the microphone is obtained from an internal arrangement, which is permanently wired into the set, though through this feature, no batteries are required for the microphone bias supply. Triode. Vacuum tube precursor to the transistor. Thank you, Key Squared. I did not know what a triode was, even if it does also sound like a Doctor Who villain. The headphone jack will take either magnetic or crystal headphones. Upon insertion of headset plug into the phone jack, the loudspeaker is automatically disconnected. Provisions for metering oscillator plate current is provided through an insulated jack in the rear of the unit. The Ultraphone model UHP2 comes complete with matched set of tubes. The loudspeaker is a permanent magnet speaker, self-contained. Only one antenna is required for both transmit and receive, and the transmitter is separately tuned, so that no returning is necessary when switching from transmit to receive. The Ultraphone model UHP2 will operate from a vibrator-type power supply, delivering up to 350 volts DC at 110 to 120 mils. A standard AC power supply delivering 350 volts at 110 mils, 6.3 volts at 1.25 amps may be used. Dynamotor delivering up to 350 volts at 110 to 120 milliamps may be used. In case of vibrator dynamotor supplies, the filament voltage may be taken from a 6-volt battery. Whew! It did feel a bit like technobabble, but still. It's a transmitter receiver, as far as I can tell. The original Ultraphone model UHP2. Let's see. An advertisement should hopefully tell me what it is and what it does. Right? Although the other ad just gave technical specifications, which... less helpful. The high-quality 144 to 148 megacycle transmitter receiver. It's all the same information as the other one, but check these important features. Commercial appearance and performance. Newly designed 6AK5 detector circuits. Expanded band spread and increased sensitivity. Transmitter will handle 30 watts input continuously. Operating capabilities up to 250 megacycles. Transmitter features the Taylor Tough 20 tube. Other tubes include 6AK5, 7B4, and 7C5. Provisions for crystal and magnetic headphones and metering. $45 FOB factory. I know what COD is, but what is FOB? I don't recognize FOB. That's the only folder on the Ultraphone as far as I'm aware. Oops. FOB. Free on board. Shipping term that determines when the seller's responsibility for goods ends. Huh. Okay. Radiopager. Honestly, this photo needs scale. Because this photo, it looks like a server rack. Like, it looks big. It looks like a big cabinet that would sit on the floor. But it's not. It is not that big. It is smaller. It looks ginormous. I'll see if I can figure out the actual size. I think this is the transmitter unit. So actually it might be big. Let's see, there's procedures for the we're gonna look here. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how big it is. There is, I think, the best scale we have. So I do think this is actually a cabinet. The best idea of scale, I think, is these AC outlets. So I do think this is a cabinet. It's also got wheels. This is the base unit, or the like transmitting station, as far as I can tell. All right, so we have an article here from 1952. Dream fulfilled. This is the caption on the image here. The image of the handheld receiver unit that would pair to this transmitter. Dream fulfilled. 12-ounce Royal Call receiver for inaudible paging in hospitals. Buzzing Dr. Kildare as Charles F. Neergaard, world-renowned hospital consultant, lay in a New York hospital bed early in 1939, he vowed to banish all audible paging systems. 2 infuriating months listening to plaintive calls for this or that physician had filled him up to here. In his 13 years as doctor to ailing hospitals, he had introduced clatterless kitchenware and the noiseless electric switch, which had muted faucets, excised door hinge squeals, and soundproofed miles of hospital walls. Exorcism of audible paging was next on the list. Finally, in 1951, he said, I was able to interest Harry Royal, an electronics equipment manufacturer, in my idea. He turned it over to Al Gross, the wartime inventor of the walkie-talkie radio. Within 6 weeks, the first working prototype of this radio paging system had been tested and found practical. This is not the first attempt to jettison audible paging. Another system requires the doctor to listen to his receiver a full minute and pick his signal out of a series being broadcast. The familiar numbered electric panel cancels out decibels, but necessitates a constant alert on the busy physician's part. The crystallization of Nearguard's vow, which is being marketed for Royal Call Inc. of Cleveland by the Standard Electric Time Company of Springfield, Massachusetts, is a device of breathtaking simplicity. The physician enters the hospital, picks up a 12-ounce radio receiving set, slips it into his pocket, and goes on his way. The telephone operator gets a message for him and then reaches to a transmitter panel and presses the buttons, which correspond to the number of his receiver. So this type of system is still in use today for restaurant paging. If you go to a restaurant and they can't seat you right away and they hand you the little pager thing that will let you know when your table is ready, and then, you know, it buzzes and the lights light up to let you know that it's going off. It's the same kind of system that is. Instantly, a signal only 5 millionths of a second long shoots out and triggers a buzzer in the receiver. The buzz is weak, inaudible a few feet away, yet persistent, and is silenced only when the physician presses a button on top of his receiver. The physician now knows he has been paged, and the buzz cutoff resets the instrument. Heart of inventor Gross's device is a series of oscillating crystals capable of transmitting as many as 800 different signals, and 800 other combinations of crystals, each capable of reacting to one and only one specific signal. The brevity and weakness of these pulsations prevent interference with the operation of radio and TV sets or hospital equipment, yet they can pierce a lead-lined Roentgen ray room to touch off the radiologist's receiver. Basically, that article is like, basically he invented the perfect paging device for hospitals. Selective radio paging has origin in hospitals. This article is from March of 1990 in Mobile Radio Technology. Selective radio paging began in hospitals 13 years after the initial idea was conceived. A unique broadcast signal received by a small plastic box proved essential to the birth of a technology in widespread use today. I love this image. The first selective radio paging beeper was built in a plastic box about 2 inches longer than a package of cigarettes. It weighed 12 ounces. It slipped into a pocket and could remain there unnoticed until it buzzed. We have a caption for the image that we were trying to figure out. The first FCC type approved radio paging transmitter fed 50 watts RF output to an indoor antenna. That's pretty cool. It's not a walkie-talkie, but it's similar, or I don't know. Serves similar purposes to a walkie-talkie. Oh, this folder is the wristwatch walkie-talkie. So we're back to where we started. When television came along, Chester Gould equipped Dick Tracy with the new medium. Hi, Alexi! Let's see. Oh, this is great. Hello, anywhere! Here's the lowdown on cellular phones! There's a whole folder of cartoons. Ooh. Complete 2-tube miniature FM transmitter, less batteries. So this doesn't have the batteries. You've got a matchbook and a cigarette. For size comparison, this is the transmitter. The label, it says 1950. It says Dick Tracy wrist radio transmitter, designed and built by A. Gross. City inventor has Dick Tracy beat. New industry almost ready to produce tiny radio. Pint-sized walkie-talkie. Here is A. Gross, inventor, as he demonstrates his 12-ounce broadcasting station. Below, he compares with ordinary-sized cigarette and tiny tubes that make the new radio possible. The blue metal detector? Yeah. I didn't know what it was. George? Hello, George, are you there? I called you on my wrist radio. I think it's hilarious that that's what it says when, he's not actually holding a wrist radio. Or he's holding a cell phone. Whoopsie. Here's the two-way wrist TV, because when TV came around, Chester Gould updated the two-way wrist radio with television. Okay. I wish that we actually had the wrist radio. I just don't think we do. I know, I definitely don't have it here in the room with me, because if it's anywhere, it's in the exhibit upstairs. I go look at list. I don't see it listed. I'm not sure that we actually have a copy of it. Or a copy of it. I'm not sure that we actually have the actual wrist radio. But I do have a fun little case here that I wasn't sure. I was just going through the boxes of like the actual like objects, and I was like, oh, I wonder what's in this case. And it is just a case full of random electrical components and printed circuit boards, and none of them are labeled. I mean, technically, I guess these are labeled, but a 2-tube FM transmitter from 1947 to 1948. It's pretty small. I guess some of them are labeled. That's nice. fine line. Thankfully, we don't ever expect to need to use these components because if we needed to keep them in working order, I would need to be grounded. Because these components are old enough that they would be sensitive to static. Tiny little board. And the thing is, these are... I commented on these being tiny little boards. These are enormous compared to modern boards. They're truly big. Yeah. Lots of just random electronics in here. You never know what you're gonna find when you're going through an archival collection. Dick Tracy and the Walkie-Talkie. Because we have hit 5 o'clock, and I do have to wrap things up so that these boxes can go over to the event that Elixir will be hosting very shortly. So hopefully it was interesting. There's definitely more stuff in this collection that we could dive into. I find it fascinating. And it was one that I had never looked at before, so I thought it was a good one. Next Wednesday, I will be joined by special guest archivist Kira, but it will not be a strictly food-related stream. Next Wednesday, archivist Kira joins me for Unintentional Horror. We're pulling things from the archives that are unsettling or frightening in some way. Not necessarily because they're intended to be unsettling or frightening. So we're not going to be looking at like Edgar Allan Poe or Edward Gorey or any of that type of stuff. No. We're going to find the creepy things that weren't meant to be creepy and look at them. So that is next week. And then the week after will be another sci-fi story, followed by the Civil War Diary. And then we'll be looking at Skylab, the International Space Station, and space shuttles. Yeah. We're just going to continue on. I have done both Gory and Poe. In previous times. In fact, the Edgar Allan Poe stream went extra long because I didn't realize that the clocks on the computers I was using had not updated. And so I streamed until like 6:30. Anyway, let me see who is around for us to raid. Many folk. But it's been a few weeks and we love him. He shows up to watch and gives support and has a wonderful community. He wears tiny hats. And we'll be happy to put one on for you if you so request. We're going to raid Stephen Joyce today. So I do encourage you all to join me in that raid. Credits are going. Hey, look, it me. Thank you to my mods, Hannah, Sterling, and Elixir for being here. Oh, Katrina, thank you for the raid. And Dwarven Fury, thank you for the follow. And of course, the music we have been listening to is from Lo-Fi Girl. So yeah, we're gonna raid on over to Stephen Joyce, who is currently playing Hades 2. So I encourage you all to pop in and just enjoy yourself with a lovely, lovely streamer and a wonderful community. And let's see, my next stream generally on my channel should be more blueprints on Saturday. And then, of course, we'll be back here next Wednesday for Unintentional Horror with special guest Archivist Kira. Thank you all for joining me. Until I see you again, keep exploring history.